What's going on, Jerome's? Smile if your GM is indeed cooking. That's right. It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful morning. Vikings pulling off the trade, getting a second first-round pick, getting that necessary ammunition to potentially trade up into the stratosphere, find the quarterback of the future, and life is pretty damn good. Life is pretty damn good for being a Minnesota Vikings fan. Historically, hasn't been the case, but the Vikings could and should be able to find their quarterback of the future, and everyone and their mom is weighing in with their opinions of where the Vikings will end up. Daniel Jeremiah, NFL Network, well said. So DJ, former NFL scout, now NFL Network, he has the contacts, he knows the inner workings of things, and he understands sort of the ebb and flow of what's going to go on with the draft. And I feel like DJ gave us a little bit of tea. So he was on with Zach Gelb of CBS Sports, and he talked about a couple of things of if and when the Vikings can move up into the top 4 and where that potentially could be. So Vikings Insider did a great job here, basically getting to what DJ said about the various landing spots. So in terms of spots, they're probably not going to trade with Chicago. I don't think that the Bears have the huevos to trade in division. Plus, I think they're just going to take Caleb Williams. But 2, Washington, 3, New England, 4, Arizona, 5 with the Chargers, I think are the sweet spots. And we said, I don't think the Cardinals will move out, but you never know. You never know, man. So DJ specifically asked... talk about the Cardinals. He speculates the Vikings could have an assured landing spot with the Cardinals at 4. So I'm wrong. Quote, "This feels like to me you have a for sure landing spot, assuming that 4 with the Cardinals, so that's the floor. You say, okay, you're going to effort and try like crazy to see if we can get Washington or New England to bite, but if we don't get them to bite, we know that we have a deal at 4. So worst case scenario, we're getting the 4th quarterback. We're ahead of the Giants from that standpoint, and we have that locked in. And in terms of for the Vikings, I mean, I firmly think that there's a big 4 in this draft: May, Williams, Daniels, and McCarthy. Now, the order that you see them is the order that you see them. But 4, beep, bop, bop, boop, boop, mathematically means the Vikings can't be frozen out of one of the choices. Now, I think Williams will go 1, and May obviously has the connections with McCown, Daniels, Skull SU, whole thing, and J.J. McCarthy would fit in perfectly with what Kevin O'Connell wants to do. So, I mean, it could be a spot where the Vikings are this, and this, like this close with May, Daniels, and McCarthy. I understand people. Here's sort of what bugs me too. So you can have your opinion on quarterbacks, sure. Like, I love Drake May. I love Jaden Daniels. I understand Caleb Williams, and I see the upside with McCarthy. I like Penix more than most people. Michael Penix Jr. more than most, and also I like to gamble, so I would take a shot on Rattler before Bo Nix. But if Bo Nix ends up as a quarterback of the Vikings, I'm going to root like hell for him. Because I feel like people get too tribal about everything with the draft. Well, everything in general. How you do one thing is how you do everything. But in the draft, where they get attached to one prospect, and if if their team goes a different direction, they're like, boo, we hate you, boo, boo. I mean, going back to Ponder, going back to Teddy Bridgewater, going back to everything, going back to Kirk, right? So just because they didn't get your guy, what are you going to do? Actively root against the quarterback of your team? Nah, that's ridiculous, man. So if the Vikings do indeed have that floor at 4, potentially working on a deal with Washington at 2 and New England at 3, it's interesting. So, I mean, the Vikings, I actually feel like a deal could come together relatively quickly where, if you get to at least 3, you're not going to be boxed out in all likelihood. If you get 4, you're going to get one of the 4 quarterbacks no matter what. The big concern is the wild card is the Giants, because I think that they would be motivated to move up, because I think that Joe Shane, their GM, and Brian Daboll, their head coach, I think they're a little bit desperate right now, because they're obviously over Daniel Jones, and if they need to get into the top 4, if the Vikings just go to 5, they could get leapfrog and they could get frozen out. So say goes quarterback, 1, 2, 3. The Vikings are at 5, but then the Giants just trade heaven and earth with the Cardinals to get up to 4, and the Cardinals only have to move down to 6. And the advantage that the Vikings have over the Giants is that they have 2 first-round picks immediately. Now, future first-rounders are fine, but they're a gamble because you don't know where they're going to be, and also you can't use them this year. And this is a what have you done for me lately league. So right now, that's the advantage. The advantage the Giants have is that they have 6, right? And also, the Giants could be very poopy. So future first rounders could be relatively high. So that's what they got going on for them right now. Also, they have a second round pick this year, which the Vikings do not now after the trade with the Texans. But 4 could be the floor. DJ continues. He believes the Patriots are committed to picking their franchise quarterback at 3. Everything that I've heard seems to be they are committed to staying at 3. They want an $8 to $10 million quarterback. They got that with JEROME Brisket, and they're going to take the guy of the future there at 3. So, if that happens, it is what it is. Now, would you try to get ahead of the Patriots since it's likely QB, and you just take what's left over between May, Daniels, and McCarthy at 4? Are you okay with that? Do you accept that? Or do you try to leapfrog them if indeed they're not in on quarterback? Although it could be a spot too where the Patriots feel like they're so far away. Now that we're here, we're so far away that they could trade down. Or if they do like a guy like Penix, or they do like a guy like Nix or Rattler, and they could snag him either at 11, just straight up sticking and picking, or more than likely at 23, or potentially with their second round pick. Then they potentially could move down and get that bonanza. Now, here's the thing too. I fully understand that people look at the draft trade charts, which are good for guidelines, but they're not the Bible. They're not the be-all, end-all. And I know a lot of people have said, well, just trade 11 and 23 for 3, or 11 and 23 for 4 or 2. It's not going to happen. No. So even though it may work out on the trade chart, I mean, the precedent is a similar jump up, 2021. It costs the Niners the number 12 overall pick, 2 future first rounders on top of that, and also a third round pick to get to 3. So that's what we're talking about right now. And I understand what the chart says, but every single team uses a different chart or values picks differently. And also, like we said, there is precedent. So that's exactly what they are going to look at. So DJ continued. I already talked about the Patriots. 3, this one's spicy. He believes the Commanders might consider moving back and are more open to listening to offers than the Patriots are. I believe that it's likely that Washington stays and takes one of those 2 guys, but I would think Washington of the 2 would be more likely to at least listen because of what they need on that roster and where they are. Between those 2, from Washington and New England, it feels to me like Washington would be the one that maybe would at least listen to what these offers are. So that obviously would be really interesting, because outside of Caleb Williams, I mean, the Vikings would have their choice of quarterbacks. So they would have their choice of May, of Daniels, or McCarthy. Now, that compensation to get up to 2 is going to be steep. We're talking 11, 23, future first rounder, and also probably a future something else. Probably not first, but it's got to be something else, or maybe a starter. Maybe a guy like Brian O'Neill. So at Washington, they did trade Sam Howell, but it's a new GM, new coaching staff, new ownership. So it's not saying that they're completely just out on quarterback. But if they want to move down, and if their new GM Peters wants those draft picks, and he feels like they're already assembling like a veteran adjacent type roster with all the free agent signings, and they feel like, okay, we can take the kid or at 2, or we can get a ton of draft capital, still get a quarterback at 11, 23, or in the second round, and still be good to go there. And that would, of course, be very similar to like the Patriots says, like, hey, we like the big 4, but we still like Penix, we still like Nix, we still like Rattler, etc. So I do respect what DJ does for NFL Network, and also I think he still has those connections. So that's really insightful, where basically it's sort of inverse of initially what we were thinking, is that maybe the Arizona Cardinals would not be down for business. The most likely would be the Patriots, but he said reverse. I mean, the Patriots, between the Patriots and the Commies, maybe the Commies would be most likely to move down. Who knows? But either way, even the most fervent Kwesi haters have to respect what they did yesterday, where now they have the chips on the table. Like they have the ammunition to move up into the top 4. And I think things could come together a lot sooner than you think. I think if the Vikings get into the top 3, things could get done quickly. 4 may have to wait until draft day, and 5 especially, you're going to have to wait until draft day. But it's exciting times, man. And hell, if they get frozen out, Just take your edge rusher or cornerback or offensive lineman or defensive tackle at 11, and then just take Penix at 23. Who knows? Who knows, man? But your thoughts are thoughts. Daniel Jeremiah weighs in on the Vikings' journey to trading up at the top 4. Let us know your thoughts and our thoughts in the comment section below. You guys know what to do. Skull, production value.